On January 3, 1943, Staff Sergeant Alan Magee found himself in a horrifying position. He was in a dead freefall, plunging 20,000 feet through the freezing air over France without a parachute. Magee was part of the American 8th Air Force. In late 1943, these crews flew massive daylight bombing raids deep into heavily defended European territory. They faced a barrage of threats, but the most relentless was anti-aircraft fire, known as flak. German batteries fired 88mm explosive shells designed to detonate at the exact altitude of the bombers, filling the sky with lethal shrapnel. This bar chart visualizes the mathematical gap between military expectations and reality for these crews. An airman was required to complete a 25-mission tour of duty to go home. But as you can see, the statistical average lifespan of a B-17 crew was only 11 missions. The math practically guaranteed death. Making it home required an impossible combination of three distinct variables: raw aerospace engineering, extreme human willpower, and entirely unexplainable fate. The first variable was the machine itself. During a chaotic bombing run over Germany, a B-17 named the Little Skipper was navigating an intense anti-aircraft barrage when things went terribly wrong. The pilots of another bomber directly ahead of them, the 9 Lives, were killed by enemy fire. Their lifeless bodies slumped against the controls, forcing their plane into a sharp upward trajectory directly into the path of the Little Skipper. The 9 Lives crashed upward and pierced the aluminum belly of the Little Skipper. The 2 massive bombers were instantly impaled, locking together in midair. Aerodynamically, this intertwined 8-engine mass of metal should have snapped apart under the violent stress or immediately entered an unrecoverable death spiral. Urgent! Instead, the Little Skipper's pilots, Glenroe John and William Leake, braced their feet against the instrument panel. Using raw physical strength, they manipulated their remaining throttles to stabilize the tangled wreck and steer both locked planes toward the coast. They managed to crash-land the fused bombers, saving 10 men between the 2 crews. That outcome relied entirely on the legendary structural resilience of the B-17's airframe. The machine held together long enough to give them a fighting chance. But a strong airframe meant nothing without the crew inside it. Our second variable is human willpower, best illustrated during a massive fighter intercept involving a B-17 named Ruthie II. During the attack, a 20mm shell breached the cockpit. Captain Robert Campbell took a direct hit to the head, sustaining severe brain trauma. Campbell didn't die immediately. His primal survival instincts activated, but his damaged brain could no longer comprehend the situation. He turned on his own co-pilot, John Morgan, physically attacking him in a desperate attempt to seize the controls and pull the plane out of formation. Breaking formation meant certain death for the entire crew, so Morgan wrapped one arm over his head to absorb a relentless barrage of bloody punches from his dying captain, while using his other hand to grip the yoke and keep the crippled bomber flying level. Morgan endured this severe physical and psychological beating for 2 solid hours. He kept the plane steady, successfully dropped their bombs, and flew the crew back to England. His actions, which earned him the Medal of Honor, showcased the absolute limit of human endurance. Even with a durable machine and an iron will, crews still needed the third variable, pure fate. Which brings us back to Alan Magee, still plummeting toward the Earth at terminal velocity. Magee crashed directly into the Saint-Nazaire railway station, but he struck a steep, inverted V-shaped glass skylight. Shattering that glass absorbed just enough of his kinetic energy to cushion the impact. He suffered broken bones and severe shrapnel wounds, but he survived a 20,000-foot freefall. Fate didn't only intervene through gravity. Consider the B-17 Tondileo, which limped back to base after taking 11 direct 20mm cannon hits straight into its fuel tank. The physics here are completely unforgiving. A single live explosive shell detonating inside an aviation fuel tank will instantly vaporize the aircraft. Yet the Tondileo remained intact. When the armorers opened up the wing, they found all 11 shells wedged inside the tank. Every single one was a dud, completely empty of explosive filler. Inside one of those empty shells, they found a small, rolled-up piece of paper. It contained a handwritten note from a conscripted Czech saboteur working in a German munitions factory. Translated, it read, "This is all we can do for you now." Neither the Boeing engineers nor the courage of the crew could have saved the Tondileo from those hits. They were kept alive by the inexplicable intervention of a stranger miles away. Beating the deadly mathematics of the air war required this highly improbable collision of factors. A crew needed a brilliantly engineered machine, an endless supply of youthful grit, and a heavy dose of blind luck. But surviving that equation carried a heavy cost. Airmen like Gene Moran, who survived his own plane disintegrating midair, were plagued by severe trauma and recurring nightmares of falling long after the war ended. Ultimately, these accounts serve as a stress test for the human condition, mapping the exact point where grit and engineering collide with the impossible. To look back at the B-17 is to see the raw limits of what a person can endure before they